Don't panic, it's okay. You can sit down. Right. Alarms are really important things, aren't they? So what did you think when you heard that alarm? Yeah? None of you moved very quickly. That's a bit of a worry. Yeah, alarms are important, but sometimes what's more important is our response to those alarms. And you failed the test, I'm afraid, today. Because we have alarms for fires, don't we? When we hear a fire alarm, what have we got to do? We've got to get out of the building, haven't we? Yeah? Sometimes we have an alarm in the morning when we're waking up. Who likes the alarm that goes off in the morning when we're waking up? Yeah? Who likes the snooze button on the alarm in the morning when we're waking up? Yeah? But sometimes bells are good. Who likes the bell at the end of the school day? Yeah? What do you do when you hear the bell at the end of the school day? You run out the door, don't you? Yeah. So sometimes bells are good things. And I remember as a boy growing up in Belfast in Northern Ireland and hearing the factory bells at 5 o'clock in the evening in the factory hooters and seeing all the workers pour out of those factories and go home for the evening. So alarms are important things, but our response to those alarms are also really important. And I think when I read the book of Esther, it's a lovely book. It's only 10 chapters. It's an easy read. It's a book of alarms. It's a book of alarms. King Xerxes, sometimes known as Ahasuerus, he was a great king, as John told us today. 127 provinces he was the king of, all the way from India through Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, bits of Egypt, Lebanon, Israel, Syria. He was a king of a mighty area, about 460 to 480 BC, before Christ. And he crushed two major rebellions, one in Babylon, modern-day Iraq, and one in Egypt. So he was feared across the whole region. And he sent an invitation out to all of his officials to say, I want you to come and have a party at mine. When those officials received those invitations, do you think they said, I don't want to go. Do you want to go? I don't want to go. They better be there because Xerxes was a very feared king. And he had a party for 180 days. 180 days. Who was running the region when all of his officials were in Susa having a big party? So, then we hear at this party that the king got drunk. That should have been a bit of a wake-up call, a bit of an alarm for him and a bit of alarm for his officials. And whilst he was drunk, he decided to invite his queen, as we've heard, Queen Vashti, to come and dance before all of his officials and all of the important people from all over his provinces. That rang an alarm bell in Vashti's head. If I go and do this dance, what's that mean for me? What will happen to me? So Vashti said she wasn't going. And that made the king angry. And just a little speak out to you young ladies out here today. Never, never, never let men in your life treat you as a trophy. Yeah? Never, never, never let men in your life treat you like something that's of a plaything. You are important. Yeah? You are really, really important. And men, we've got a responsibility to treat our women folk right. Have we not? Yeah? In Ephesians, we're told that we've got to love our wives as Christ loved the church, because Christ gave himself up for the church. And in Colossians, we're told not to be harsh with our wives, but to love them. Just a little segue there for you this morning. So, Esther, as we've heard, replaces Vashti as the queen. And she needs 12 months of preparation before she goes to see the king. Some of you women are thinking, how does she do it so quickly? 12 months of preparation before she goes to see the king. And then in chapter 2 of Esther, we hear an alarm bell that goes off for Mordecai, and he hears about the plot against the king. What does he do? He goes to make sure the king is made aware of the fact that someone is plotting to kill him. And then we have the big one, the really big alarm that goes off. Mordecai, as we've heard, has a row with Haman, the chief official in the king's kingdom. And Haman has a plan, not just to deal with Mordecai, but to deal with all those of his kind. And all the Jews throughout all those 127 provinces were basically sentenced to death. And that sounded a big alarm bell in Mordecai's head. He decided he was going to wail like an alarm. If you read it in the book of Esther, you hear him wailing, and he's in sackcloth and ashes, and he's fasting. And he gets a message to Esther, and he says to Esther, Esther, you've really got to go and see the king, because you need to change this circumstance. You need to do it now. There's an alarm ringing, and you've got to do this now. And Esther says, Haman, I went to see the king 30 days ago. I need 12 months before I go back and see that man again. Otherwise, I could die if he doesn't hold out his golden scepter. And then Mordecai says to Esther these very important words. And Ramesh, you're going to put this up on the screen for us. This is Esther 4, verse 14. Mordecai says to Esther, and who knows, but you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Who knows that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? What was Esther's response? Well, we heard it in the story. 3 days of prayer and fasting. And she says to Mordecai, I will go and see the king. And if I perish, I perish. That's a bit of a precursor to what we read the Apostle Paul say in Philippians chapter 1 and verse 21. For to me to live is Christ, but to die is gain. Esther was prepared at this point to die for her people and for what was right. And also a bit of an echo of Daniel 3, verse 16 to 18, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How did I remember that when I was a boy? Shake the bed, make the bed, and into bed you go. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they were going to be thrown into the fiery furnace for not bowing down to the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had put up. And they said this, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it. And he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. That phrase, even if he doesn't, we're still going to do the right thing. That's what Esther said. Even if I perish, I'm still going to do the right thing. And as I conclude my remarks, why are you here for such a time as this? What is it that God has for you to do for such a time as this? Kids, let me speak to you. Amongst your school friends, amongst your family, in your homes, in the clubs and things that you do, what's God asking you to do? What's God laying on your heart to do amongst your friends, in your school, and in your families? What's God really laying on your heart to do? Are you listening to what God is asking you to do for him in your families and in your schools and in your homes and in your streets? Young people, I went to Gospel Vibes yesterday, and it was fantastic, TJ, let me just say. Absolutely fantastic. And to see those young people sold out for God and performing on that stage songs of worship and dance onto the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, I say to you, young people, what are you doing for such a time as this to make a difference for God in your generation? What are you doing for such a time as this to make a difference for your generation. And for us who are a little bit longer in the tooth, what's God stirring up on our hearts is going to take us out of our comfort zones for things that he wants us to do for him, for such a time as this. We've got to listen out for those alarms. Those of us who are of a certain age may remember an old Christian rocker by the name of Larry Norman. Who remembers Larry Norman? Just 3 or 4, Rod, God bless you. Oh. Larry Norman wrote a spoken word piece called The Tune back in the 1980s. And I'm just going to read it to you right now. The tune is about our relationship with God, okay? The tune was our relationship with God. It goes like this. Once there was a tune, and everybody knew how it went. But as time went by, people began to forget. Until at last, no one could remember. And there was hatred and wars and death. Then one day someone said, "How does the tune go?" "There is no tune. There never was. It's only a myth," said the philosophers. "Well, it doesn't really matter what tune you play, so long as you play something," said the religious leaders. And so the world played on, and there was hatred and wars and death. And then one day the people became weary of the song, and they all sat down on the side of a hill, and suddenly they heard a very strange voice, and someone said, "That sounds like the tune." "There is no tune, there never was, there never will be." "Well, it doesn't really matter what tune you play, as long as you play something, and you don't hurt anybody, particularly me." But the people listened, and a man appeared before them with a smile on his face and a sad look too, and he was singing the tune. And some of the people began to sing along, and the people who loved him decided to follow him, but the people who hated him decided to kill him. And they did. And it was finished. Then they went back to their houses of philosophy and religion, and they sat down to the tables to eat and drink. And suddenly they were interrupted by a familiar voice, and they ran out of their windows and looked outside to see who it was. And it was him. And they became confused and afraid, and they wondered how they could be rid of him once and for all. And while they were watching him, something very strange happened. How did he do that? I don't really know, but he's gone, and when trouble goes, you don't ask where. He'll never return again, I hope. Yet again, they were interrupted, and this time they ran out of the streets to lay hold of him, but they couldn't find him. Just a lot of people smiling, and they all knew the tune. And when the people made a mistake, they stopped, and they listened. That's how they knew the tune, because they listened. And if you listen, you'll hear it. It's all around you. Listen to your radio, watch television, listen to your leaders, to the authorities, to the governments, to the experts. But if you really listen, you can hear another tune. But you have to listen quietly. And you have to listen every day. Amen?